Hold
You're
on, hold
not
on,
going
hold
to
on,
know
hold
that
on, hold
if
on,
you
hold on,
We
hold on,
black
got
hold on.
if
that.
you're
Got
black
So
and
that.
Indian,
wait a
hear
minute,
me,
wait a
hear me.
minute, wait a
You're
minute,
not
wait a
from
minute, wait a
somewhere.
minute. If you read the creation story that
There
was
is
left
not
by
one
the
creation
Egyptians, let
story
me
in
finish.
Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. There's not one creation
Can
story.
someone hear
What are
me?
you
Even
talking
though,
about?
like
There's
I
no
said,
creation story. What are you?
there's
Hello?
not
Are you
Hello?
one
serious?
creation story. You in our language, the creation story, it may be identical, but it's going to be differently said. In my language, going to be differently said. In Salam's language, going to be differently said. So we cannot say there's
Isabel is
one
mad.
creation story. We cannot, because there's going to be
Actually, what we
multiple
can
names.
say, but what we can do, we can say we take
Yo,
all these
Indigo,
stories
how
from
do
all
you
these
think?
different people, and who said it first?
She's not wrong because in ancient Egypt there are multiple creation stories and multiple pantheons.
There's one that created what he wrote. He said he
There's the
created
old
That's
God,
a
moisture.
and
lie.
then
Hold
there's
up.
another
That's a
There
pantheon.
was
lie.
one.
That's a lie.
No, there was one.
That's a lie.
After him, he's the one that created everything. Then you bring in the
Patriarchy
I
Isis,
hope you're
is
not
Osiris,
trying
saying
to
Math.
Akhenaten.
eradicate
That's
papers.
a second pantheon.
Oh
Look at
my
the old, look at the Amunet, Amu, Shu. Those are from the eight
Excuse me.
first creator
Monroe,
divinities in
hold
ancient
on.
Egypt.
Monroe, hold on. What did Messiah just say? What did you say, Messiah? Say that again.
I said
These
the
shocking
creation
hoodie
story.
things.
It was one deity that created everything else.
Who
Everything
told you
else
that?
came. I read it.
In whose creation story?
Well,
All ancient
eh,
writings that you don't have.
I'm
Whose
talking about
creation?
the
What the
ancient
fuck was
writings
that?
coming out of Egypt.
Oh, from Egypt. No, that's not true. Africans don't have one creation story. I don't care what you research.
I didn't
And if
say
you guys,
Africans. I said the
We also don't
Egyptians.
have one God.
Egypt,
The
That is
Egyptians didn't
the
have just one either.
obsession of
Yes,
Egypt.
Egypt is
they
in
did. Oh
Africa.
my goodness.
No, we never had
The
one God. I can tell you right now,
Wait a
I'm from
minute.
South
Everybody,
Africa.
hold on.
Can
I'm
somebody
from
hear me?
Messiah. I'm from South Africa, which is literally called the cradle of humankind, where we've got the 200,000 billion the stone circles of called Inzaloyelanga, which is called Adam's calendar today, right? Because they tried to make it biblical. But it's called Inzaloyelanga. Even there, we don't have one God. We've
There
got
is you.
Mbilingani,
Let
we've got
me.
Mlenzemunye,
Okay.
we've got
No,
Nomkhulwane.
Messiah.
You cannot tell me
Hold
there
on.
was one
Wait.
person who created everything. Zanderu is literally an Australian white piece of shit. He needs to get off this life. I don't even understand why he's here.
Who? I'll block. Hold on. Before we
Who?
go forward,
You're
Zanderu,
Messiah
going
that's in
to
the
right there.
panel?
Yeah,
He's white?
yeah.
before we go forward in the conversation, Messiah is not going to tell you what we Africans know about ourselves. So you may research something that tells you this or this, but we are African. We're telling you there's no such thing in anywhere in Africa where there's one creation story. There are several creation stories.
In
Okay,
ancient Egypt, they had a Memphis creation story, a Thebes creation story, a
yeah,
Heliopolis, and a Hermopolis.
don't
There's
tell
four
us that
different
you
ones.
researched something. Don't tell us over here. Don't tell us that you researched something and it stands the truth. It's not true. Don't do that. We're Africans. We're here to listen to you, but don't tell us about us, okay?
And don't tell us about written history. We're an oral people. That's why even when people get initiated, they get initiated orally. Not about things that are written.
Well, that's not good because the people that were civilized people,
Home
people
run,
that were
Indigo.
civilized people
Wait.
actually had a written. You have to have writings to have a civilization. You have to have a writing system, an alphabet, money. So if you didn't have that, you don't come from a civilization.
I thought
Because the
agriculture
oldest
and
civilization,
irrigation
all that agriculture, like running water, sewages, and all that. Yes, brother. But a lot of African nations didn't even have a writing system. They did not. Writing comes from North Africa. No, they didn't. I checked it. I did the research. A lot, like she said, it's oral. It's oral with them from their mouth.
Nativity is? It's in Nigeria. And they claim for centuries that Nigeria never had a written language, and they do.
No, I checked it, brother. They did not. They got a writing system in the 1800s, 1851, and their alphabet is Arab. Oh my goodness. I did the research. They did not have a writing system. I know.
Yo,
I would.
Sarah,
Does she have to?
yeah,
Does she
never
have to
mind.
stay?
Yeah, she has to go, bro. Because
Does
there's
she
no
can go?
explaining anything
Okay.
to her. She really thinks going
Google make her more educated than anybody else on the panel. Girl, we can look at Google the same way you did. I'm not understanding when people are telling you these things that are actually African. Why are you not listening to them? You would rather listen to a European-based Google search or etc., but you won't listen to the people that are telling you that they did have systems before that. And saying all of these things are trying to say exactly what? Now you're trying to say African are inhumane or they wasn't civilized. That's why this, that's why that. Why did you even bring that up? Why did you even bring that up? Because if anything, your people are also considered uncivilized too. No matter how much you want to associate yourself with Israelites, the people don't associate you with them. They don't. So it's like, let's be so for real right now.
And Hebrew was a dead language that was rejuvenated. People were not writing and speaking in Hebrew for a very long time.
Correct.
Yeah, she's literally associating almost every African language with Arabs, and I'm not understanding where she's getting that connection from. Where are you getting these languages were
Do you
present before
know?
these people even came in? Where are you getting them from? I don't know if Pam is still listening, but I'm gonna ask you, Indigo and Pam, have you guys ever heard of that book that was written? It was written by someone who studied in Mali. It's like a manuscript of Timbuktu. Have you guys heard of that before? Mm-mm. That's where she's getting that from, right?
Oh, you're talking about from Babylon to Timbuktu.
Absolutely not. No, I'm talking about an actual historian, not nothing Babylon. I'm talking about like a real actual historian. Okay, so he was in Timbuktu, and he literally wrote the Arabs into African history. If you read the manuscripts, that's where a lot of these people get that history from. So they'll tell you that every single thing that's in Africa comes from the Arabs, because when the Arabs came to Africa, they took over Africa, could not take over West, so they wrote themselves into the history. I'll try to find
destroyed a lot of artifacts.
And they destroyed libraries too.
everything.
They burnt down knowledge.
But they burnt down libraries, everything. Yeah, yep, that's what I'm talking about. I knew. My question to the people is that if the masses of the people agree that basically, I guess, life started in Africa and etc., how people believe in that. How did you think the people were communicating before? Like, did you think like they were slapping each other up or grabbing each other? How did you think they were communicating before the Europeans or the Arabs, for example, came into Africa? How did they think they were communicating? If you've been on to their own history, Africans been here for so long. Why would you think they wouldn't have a language before these people came in? And that makes sense in your head, like, yes, they're right. The Europeans came in and taught all of them all their languages. All of their languages. Do you know how much languages are in Africa? Yeah, you people give Europeans way too much credit. Way too much credit.
It's crazy that the Europeans
Messiah,
even copied everything from the Arabs.
They literally wrote themselves into our history. I'm gonna find the
lip and get bombastic side eye.
Yeah, that lady's crazy. She's crazy. She's crazy. She really thought she ate. I researched it. Girl, have you been to Africa? Have you been to those places?
Say dialogue
that you
correctly, but she researched it.
Oh my God. I wish we could actually talk to her and hear her perspective, but she's just yelling. It's kind of hurting my ears. Like, if she could just talk normal and get the phone out her throat, then we could have a conversation. Exactly.
Okay.
But she's not trying to do that.
So what do you think of the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams?
I have it. I'm reading another book, so I haven't even opened it really.
I'm saying, I've read it, and the story is that he actually went there and he spoke to the elders, and this is the history that he came up with. So I was wondering what you think of it. I mean, I like the book personally.
Indigo is well versed in that book. I bought it because of her. I'm doing a little bit more research on my people. I don't know what to think of that book. People that read that book say it's pretty cutthroat. Why? Have you read it? Do you have anything to tell us?
Yeah, I've read it, and I mean, it's pretty cutthroat. It says a lot of things, and it says a lot of things that a lot of people aren't gonna like. I'll tell you that much.
What?
Well, there's a whole section on Islam, and it tells how Africans actually fought wars to keep the Arabs and Islam out of our part of Africa. And it talked about how what was his name? A leader named Muhammad Ali killed more He killed more Africans than the Europeans did, and it was the Europeans that made him stop. And how we kept them out. We had a war, we won, and they weren't allowed to set up any mosques. They weren't allowed to do anything in our part of Africa. And then through greed and weak leadership, they got in, and then they started conquering everything else. What else is in that book? The story of Queen Nzinga, I think it is. It talks about her in the book, about how she, when the Portuguese came to take slaves, her brother made a deal with them, and that when she became queen, she went to war with them. And it talks about all the things that she did. And she actually made Africa free. Like, no, they couldn't take any slaves from where the areas that she ruled until she passed away. And it also talks about a couple other queens that conquered Alexander the Great. It talks about the strength of black women in there. It's been a while since I read it. I think it's a good book. So I was just
Okay.
wondering what you thought about it.
Yeah, but I just want to understand, like, that lady's also, you see, this is why we say something about the older generation also, because it's like, if you're gonna have an issue or say something about somebody that's might be misinformation and people are trying to educate you about it, you can't be stuck in your ways where you're not trying to listen to anybody else. The only thing she was doing is yelling over